Hello and welcome for this podcast. Do you believe in God? We just got into conversation before I clicked go, and it was like stop, 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 stop. We need to be recording that. There's some gold already coming out here with my gorgeous guest today, the lovely Tania Elfersy. I have had the pleasure of meeting her in person in Spain at the Viva event, and I so admire, Tania, I so admire your work, what you're up to in the world, what you do. I think it's amazing. And we had some interesting conversations. I invited you onto this podcast. You said yes. And yeah, now we're here and find ourselves talking about God. Introduce yourself, say what you would like to say, and let's get into this conversation.
Yeah, so it's absolutely a pleasure to have met you in, face to face. And we did have a conversation about God when we met at the Viva event. And I ended up getting teary. And then when you asked me to come on this podcast, I said yes, because it's you. And then afterwards, I was like, do I actually want to have a conversation all about God? I mean, I'm bringing God more into my discussions recently, but I was like, do I want to have a whole conversation? That sounds religious. What are people going to think?
I love that one. I love that
They're
one.
going to start talking about Tanya and God. What does Tanya have got to say about God? What's she qualified to say about God? So yes, and then I was like, oh, well, that's even more interesting. And here I am. So just a little bit about myself. I mean, my work has been for the last decade at supporting women as they journey through midlife change, perimenopause, and menopause. And yes, knowing God during that time is so helpful, actually, because then we don't feel it's all on us. And so I would say that my um, knowing of God has really blossomed through this time and through the body, like knowing God through the body. That's how I would say that I felt comfortable, yeah, embracing a divine creator presence. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So, okay, at the beginning there was a few things you said. That whole, oh gosh, having a conversation about God, that sounds religious. And one of the things that Beck and I, my business partner and niece Beck, one of the things that we came to realize as our journey started taking us in the direction of God is that religion doesn't own God.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and I think one of the reasons I am called to have these conversations, I think, is because it's so easy to see the God of religion, if you like, and then think, no, not for me, and throw the whole thing away. And I think one of the reasons I want to have these conversations is, to me, the Bible is not a book about religion, and God is not a God of religion. And I have no problem with religion. I have nothing, that's whatever. But it's just to see, um, to me, the book is a Bible. The Bible is a book, even for life. It talks about business. It talks about families. It talks about many things. And a lot of what I see in the Bible is it says, if you do this, then that will happen. And it talks about all aspects of all sorts of things. And definitely to me, acknowledging a divine creator, acknowledging the intelligence behind life. I know a lot of what you speak about is the intelligence behind the body. And honestly, do you think when I mean, some of the things that about the body that, and I don't know much, but some of the things that I know about it, it is literally like, there is no way, just absolutely, in my opinion, there is no way that that could come about by accident. The intricacies, the amazing, I mean, childbirth. Yeah, right. Like that could just happen by accident. Really?
Yeah, and actually, I think we're very lucky as women who have gone through childbirth and breastfeeding. It's so miraculous when you just like when you're in it, when you view it, when you see it. It's so miraculous that really I often talk about that as being a springboard into really knowing God in my body. And once you've seen that miraculous, those miraculous aspects of your body, then it's hard to say, yeah, but my brain is, malfunctioning, or my hormones are crazy, or this part of me is, X, Y, or Z, because everything is connected to one divine force. So although medicine likes to chop us up into parts and say, oh, you've got a malfunction here, it's impossible for any part of the body to be disconnected from the divine. So it it's a complete, switch in terms of how we view health. But it's so helpful because it also takes the responsibility off us for our own health. I mean, we're co-creators in health. And unfortunately, in our innocence, we often create interference. But there is this divine presence that's always pushing us towards health, always encouraging us to come back into balance, always sending feelings and signals through symptoms when something is not in balance. And once we can lean into that divine presence and trust in that divine presence, then we take off a lot of load, like mental load, or even like the physical being load. Oh, I must, get busy with this in order to have this kind of outcome. We're the co-creators of our health with God. And unfortunately, when we don't see that, we can really, get into complicated situations, mentally, physically. And yeah, so it's very useful to have an understanding and a knowing of a divine presence that you can trust.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. I mean, nothing happens in isolation, does it? Like you say, it's easy to chop up our bodies and assume that they're different and all of this and not connected. But when you look, we live in a connected universe. It's like every single aspect of absolutely everything is connected to everything else. So everything that we do has an impact. And so, I think the Jack Pransky quote, all we are is peace, love, and wisdom, and the power to create the illusion we're not. All we are is absolutely connected to the divine and the power to create the illusion we're not.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we see that power, every single day when we can, feel terrible and feel pain and and then think, oh, it's because, this, that,
Mm.
the other, because I'm broken, because this malfunction, because of this gene, because of, no, like there's always a path back to balance, and trusting in the divine in your body allows us to walk that path. Um, yeah, and I've just seen it in so many cases with women who I've worked with, and women who I know who, um, if without really being able to trust, then it's like health just becomes complicated. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily for me, I mean, I've got many areas in my life where I have messed up incredibly well, made some really, really right royal messes. Um, but luckily for me, my childbirth, breastfeeding, menopause, all of that journey has been, I knew about the connection there. And I think this is one of the things, isn't it? We can see in our lives, oh, here I totally trust. Here I see this. Here I lean into divinity. I trust my own inner knowing. I trust, and it's not that I have never been to a doctor. It's not that I have never taken medicines or any of those kinds of things. It's not that I didn't take my kids to the doctors. It's not, I had an amazing, amazing, amazing midwife when I had my first daughter, who was brilliant with me around my breastfeeding, and that's how come my breastfeeding journey was for all three of my children was so lovely because of that. So it's not that I don't think that, but to me that's a part of everything is connected, and the fact that I leaned into that trust, it's amazing what shows up and what we see. And then I can see other areas of my life where it's like, oh, I'm just not doing that here, am I? And
Right. Yeah, definitely. There will definitely be like everyone, we all have our blind spots where we can say, oh yeah, I could do with a bit more trust and love over there. But I think what's so amazing is that we can see the presence of God in different areas of our life. So perhaps someone who's really fond of their garden and spends a lot of time understanding their soil and the plants and everything. So that, like just looking at the garden, someone's garden, right? There's so many layers of intelligence and wonder going on there that it would be impossible to think, oh yeah, there's like some other force than the one great source of all creation that has created this wonder and intelligence on all levels. So what exists in the garden also exists within us. And I think, my journey to feel comfortable talking about God and the divine has come from this sense that no one ever really pointed out to me that actually God is within each of us. And that was my journey. I mean, I'm Jewish and I grew up in a sort of traditional household, not absolutely religious, but traditional and etc. And with all the activities that I was involved in within the Jewish community, like no one said, "Oh, there's God within you." And yet there are parts of Judaism where that's very clear, especially, in the Kabbalah, etc. But like I had to find that for myself, which is fine. You can't blame that, we don't learn from other people, and it's great that we get to learn it from ourselves. But just realizing that, oh yeah, there has to be divine within every cell of my body. It's
Oh,
we're
excuse
walking on that path of health. Bless you. Bless you.
me.
Um, and then, but then we can see that, well, if there's divine with every cell of my body, then there's divine within every cell of everyone's body and with everything, with every living thing. So, yeah, what a wondrous world.
Absolutely. So you said that you've seen this when you're working with some of your clients. Can you share some stories with us that illustrate this? I mean, obviously, keep them anonymous,
Yeah,
but share
yeah,
some
yes,
stuff with us. What
yes.
kind of things have you seen?
Yes. So what springs to mind? I have permission to share this story, and this story is on my website, so it's fine. Um, so there was one woman who I was working with who didn't have who wasn't hadn't menstruated for 6 years, and she was interested in having was mother of one child, and she wanted to have another child, and she'd been to all the doctors, and no one really could have a precise definition of what she had, and she feared early menopause, and that's why she started working with me. And all we did was like remove, a stress element from her life and bring her back into emotional, spiritual well-being. And then lo and behold, her body started menstruating again. And very soon after that, she was able to get pregnant and have a healthy baby boy. So, there was nothing that we needed to do on the physical level to go in and say, oh, if you want this kind of hormone to have menstruation, or if you want this to happen, we just had to bring the body into complete balance. And and then the body could do the rest. And the way that I view it is, well, that halt in menstruation was not a malfunction. It was not a lack of intelligence. It was the body saying, oh, in this state of high stress, in innocence, right? In absolute innocence, but in this state of high stress, like it's not conducive to have menstruation going on. Like that takes up a certain amount of energy and certain things happen during that time. And so we're putting that on halt for now. But it wasn't that it disappeared. It was just being held until the time was right for menstruation to start again. So, but how miraculous, right? Absolutely how miraculous.
Yeah, unbelievably so. And yet, yeah, it's so easy. And especially, I got three children, I had a real pull desire to have babies, to have my children, when I was in that season of my life, if you like. So I can really feel if I had stopped menstruating at that time, I could see that I would be panicked, I would be worried, I would be, go into all of that. And so, which is why I think it is so crucial for us to understand how this works and see actually going into that state doesn't bring us back into alignment with our well-being. It actually takes us further out of alignment, and then adding drugs into, and I'm not, I definitely, there are times and moments for various things and what have you, but it is um it doesn't look to me like the first thing we should do is reach for some kind of intervention, interference with our
Right.
bodies.
Right. Yes. I mean, I often say that there's a place, if we are so panicked and we can't, sleep at night and we can't, we're in tremendous pain and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm,
If we can turn the volume a bit down with some kind of medication, in a short period of time, just so that we can get to a different level of consciousness and that we can say, oh, now with all that, without all that noise, that's from the pain or from, that's
mm,
that we see as being created from that when actually it's from within. But without all that noise, then maybe, a shift can happen. And so I never go into discussions really with clients about medicine. That's not my job. But
yeah,
there's certainly a place where we can say, okay, if we can turn down the volume, but it's not always needed. We can come into that place by ourselves. And again, it's like that trust in the divine. And I'll also say, like, when we don't trust in the divine, so many women I see on this journey, they think, oh, well, particularly like women in midlife, but it could be for anything, that there are these medicines that are overpromised. And when we don't have that trust in God, in the divine, we can transfer the trust to some other figure,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah,
we trust in the doctor, in the medicine, and we think that is some kind of godly figure. And there's a problem with that. I mean, it could be, then we have the placebo effect, and that's,
mm,
interesting
mm,
in itself. But when I see, for example, in my field of work, there's a lot of big promises made around HRT, for example, and I know that those promises aren't backed by science. Um, and so women sort of take them, they expect some kind of result. They don't get the result. And then what? And then what? It's like, oh my goodness, right? If hormones can't help me, then I'm really broken. Or for someone, for example, who's going through mental health challenges and they promise that, an intervention of SSRI is going to help. Well, often it does not help. And there's, a lot of research around that. And so, but then if it doesn't help, and then what? Like, what's their conclusion afterwards? Oh my goodness, even the drug couldn't help me because I'm so broken. If we come from that place of, I completely trust that my body knows what it's doing, I completely trust that all symptoms, for example, are intelligent, then our journey through health is going to look so different.
mm,
Um, and and of course, not only health, but through everything else. When we can trust that divine, when we can trust that we're taken care of, it makes such a difference because then we don't have to listen to all these, like,
yeah,
how would you like to call it? Like the bitchy voice, the angry voice, the
mm,
fearful voice that we can so often hear. And I also hear those voices,
yeah,
at times of challenge. I can also, like, oh my goodness, oh, that can't be true. That can't be true, right? And even if I can't feel, oh, this feels more like the truth, or if this feels more like a loving path, a godly path, in a moment, I know that it will come because I know that I'm taken care of. And so it's not only in my health, but it's like in any challenge that we face, there's always the feeling that is our divine guide, always, no matter what. And we so often, misinterpret the feeling. We think, oh, I feel terrible. I feel really fearful. I feel, that doom and gloom is right over there. Therefore, then that must be true. When actually, the feeling is just pointing, as we know, to our state of mind. And the truth always is in a loving feeling, a calm feeling, a pleasant feeling. And that's the divine path.
Yeah, no, I really hear that. And I've had some conversations with Dr. Ronnie Bora, who her thing is about mental well-being. She coined the phrase mental wealth instead of using mental health, you know. And
Yeah.
she says exactly the same thing around the drugs, because so many of us are very, very quickly given drugs, you know, if we feel depressed or if we have a problem. And like you, she said there is a place for these drugs, but a lot of the time people are prescribed things with big promises and virtually no explanation of side effects, you know, what else might happen, what and what I heard in what you said at the beginning when you were talking about it, when you were talking about the lady who had stopped menstruating, was you brought her back to alignment with her own body, with herself. And when she came back into alignment with that, then automatically her body responded to that. And one of the things that I really see that fascinates me, I mean, I talk to God all the time. I'm in deep relationship with the divine, with God, and I have conversations all the time. And when I'm asking about, so I was asking something the other day, and then God said to me, "Here, let me show you." And then out of the window, out of my window in my bedroom, I noticed these little tiny birds playing around outside, and I was watching them kind of fly from branch to branch. And then every so often they would stop and kind of put their beaks and pull up their feathers and do this. And then I watched this nature program about it, and it said that birds preen up to 10 times, spend up to 10 times longer preening than they do flying. And obviously flying is the things we know birds for. So to reach their lofty heights, to fly, they spend 10 hours, you know, 10 times, sorry, 10 times as much time preening. And one of the biggest things they do, there's various things they do in the preening, but one of the things that they do whilst they're flying, whilst they're going about their life and what have you, their feathers get knocked out of alignment. So they spend a lot of time realigning their feathers so that they can fly. Um, but I have never seen, I don't know about you, but whenever, you know, in my life, when I've been to the doctors or anything like this, I've never seen a bird at the doctors. I've never seen a bird need to see, you know, and even, you know, you don't see our wild birds. It's not very often that they're given medical attention in that sense. They kind of
Right.
have this self-righting. They know how to realign, and like there's loads more in that preening that they do, but all of the ways that they preen are very much about staying healthy and keeping in alignment. And I don't think we've been told go to the doctor and take a pill. We haven't been told preen. You
Right.
know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the birds have this innate trust in themselves,
Exactly.
that they know exactly how to preen. And it's not only the birds, the cats, the dogs,
Yeah. Yeah.
every little animal. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the only time when they would be given medical attention is a little accident, which is something else. But it's we have all. The body is designed to heal. We have everything in us to enable us to heal from anything. And I know that people can come across stories of spontaneous healing and then think, well, surely that's for that person and not for me. But I really believe that everyone has the ability, if they're facing any kind of challenge, to, through real trust in the body, in the divine, to come to a state of healing. And I was lucky on my journey to have had some kind of spontaneous healing experience with my perimenopause symptoms, and all that happened was a realization that I didn't need to take my thinking seriously. That's all that happened, and I saw that life would be much easier if I didn't. And with that, what I was experiencing at the time was night sweats and frequent migraines and 2 weeks of PMS with everything that came with it, and skin problems and other issues. And all of that just went away. And
Mhm.
it just went away because I came back into balance. And then the body was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
Now I don't, now the body doesn't need to spend time overcoming the out of balance state that I was creating in my innocence by taking thoughts seriously. And in my case, it was the thought of, I'm not enough. So I heard that thought, and it was to do with trying to run a little business and look after my three younger kids and feeling not enough in both spaces. And when I had that thought come into my head, I took it seriously because I felt bad. And so I felt that that was the truth, that I wasn't enough. And then I thought, no, there are things that I must do to overcome that feeling. I mean, there were times when I thought, well, surely I am enough, but maybe to believe that, then I have to write in a journal or say affirmations or do meditations or do anything. And then I did feel that I wasn't doing those very well because I still felt not enough. And then I came across the understanding of the three principles. And suddenly I saw, oh, even like when that thought comes into my head, I just have a choice. And of course I'm enough. I mean, but and I didn't need to convince myself because when you understand that God is within you, of course you're enough. Of course you're perfectly created. Of course your body is designed to heal. And again, there's no one outside of that rule, of that principle. That's just the way we are created.
Mhm. Do you think that, given the society we live in, certainly, the Western world, um, I mean, is it true? I've heard that there are some countries where they don't have all the problems that we have with perimenopause and menopause. So do you think, A, is that true? And then do you think we have a lot of thinking about this? I was speaking to one of my nieces who's potentially coming to the age where there might be perimenopause, menopausal things. And she's seen a lot of people. She talks to me about it because she said, oh, you didn't have all these problems, but she has lots of scary stories from other relatives and this sort of thing. So do you think that we are impacted by that fear? And then we hear things and listen to it. And is it true that there are places and countries where they don't have that experience, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you are then an example of a woman who didn't have, a lot of suffering as, her period stopped. And your period stop meant that there was a drop in hormones because that happens to every woman who, her period stop. So different cultures have different experiences of menopause, and there are many things that play into it. So some people think, oh, it's the diet, and there's a lot of focus on Japan, women in Japan, and they eat a lot of tofu, and then tofu is like mimicking an estrogen. No, no, but it also happens in, rural places in Mexico or in Pakistan where they don't eat tofu. And so, it's not just about diet. It's also about um, our expectations of our postmenopausal life and where the cultures give respect to elders. And that influences, because of course, if you think, oh, post-menopause, then, life is over and what am I worth? Then you're not going to want to enjoy that process of what I call going through this rite of passage and graduating to become the wiser elder. So there's, first of all, it's impacted through a number of things in culture. And then, of course, what the more it's catastrophized and fear is placed on this journey. And it's become very popular in recent years for everyone to share about how terrible their symptoms are. Then that creates what we know is the nocebo effect, which is the opposite from the placebo effect. And people start fearing like the first symptom that they may come across and think, oh, that's it. Now I'm going to have these symptoms for the next 10 years. Well, no, not at all, because everything that I've seen from working with women over the last decade or more is that the symptoms are absolutely not inevitable. And luckily, we don't have to move to a village in Sardinia, which has, one of the blue zones, or an island in Greece. I mean, however nice,
An
that
island
may,
in
that
Greece,
may,
yeah, yeah, you could be. I'd
maybe.
be open to
I mean, if you
that.
want to, then of course you're welcome to move to an island in Greece. But you don't have to,
Mm,
because we all have that innate well-being within us. also when our hormones are in flux. So this idea that there's one path through menopause, this idea that everyone is going to suffer, this idea also that, oh, your mother suffered, thus you must suffer. No, that's all utterly made up. There are a variety of experiences of of menopause, of the menopause transition, and we get to co-create them. So in the most basic terms, menopause is an evolutionary advantage given to humans that allows us to look after a younger generation without having our own young attached to our breast, for example, because then there would be competition between our young and our grandchildren. So there's this evolutionary advantage because it takes so long to mother children. It's
Mm.
not like some animals in the wild where it could be, a year or, even less to mother a child, to mother a young, a cub
Yeah.
or something like that. But being a mother, it takes a long time to mother
When
a
does it
child.
end? When does
Yeah,
that,
I'm not sure that it ends.
yeah.
So we
I've
do
got four
have.
grandchildren and
um, exactly. So the thing is, because of that long time it takes to mother a child, then that we have this evolutionary advantage that we can become grandmothers
Mm.
and be able to help with young. And even for someone who hasn't become mother or grandmother, you're still moving into that wiser woman stage in your life, and you have something to contribute to the younger generation. But in order to have that special thing to contribute, we also need to go through change. We also need to go through this rite of passage. We also need to go through this shift in consciousness. And so when you look at it that way, you think, oh my goodness, this is actually brilliant, right? Of course, the divine created this. Of course, God was involved because, how could it be so amazingly, set out as a plan for a woman's life cycle? Yeah, but unfortunately, in order to sell medicines, a fear is used. Fear of the body, fear of hormones, fear of this change, fear of life post-menopause. When actually, most of the post-menopausal women who I know are having the best time of their lives, and they're wise and they've got time on their hands. And they're doing exciting things. And that's because they've been through this rite of passage and, are blossoming in what we can call second spring.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And honestly, just as I said, I've got four grandchildren. Um, Definitely, it's amazing. And I would say the only reason that I know that I've gone through menopause is because I don't have periods anymore. And oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that I don't have periods anymore. When my daughters talk about that, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I remember that. Such a pain, such a nuisance. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't have that anymore. And yet, um, I'm in a different stage of my life. I feel like I'm in a different season of my life, and I can honestly say I loved I loved being a teenager. I absolutely loved being a mom, loved breastfeeding my children, loved all the pregnancy years, absolutely loved all of that. Um, and interestingly, when I was in the midst of that, and this again, you can see divinity and divinity's hand in this when I wanted my children and I was in that stage, I kind of thought, oh, I can't ever imagine ever feeling any different and ever not wanting to have another baby or any of this kind of thing. And then, sure enough, here I am. It was like, oh gosh, no, the thought of thought of being pregnant or having a baby now, it's like, oh no, thank you. And yet, I love my grandchildren, and
Right.
definitely I can see the huge benefits of my daughter having both me and her mother-in-law. She's got a lot of support and families. I can remember having a young family. I needed my mum's support when I had that.
Right.
It made a massive difference to me having that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting what you're saying about that sort of like instinct to want more children, moving to the instinct to say, oh, I don't really need that in my life right now. And a lot is said about menopausal brains, right? In a negative way. And these stories are made up. But it's like, of course, our brain is going to change as we go through menopause because we move from having that skill set that we needed to look after young children to being a wiser elder. It's very different. And you, as a grandmother, you have you have children with their children, and you need to be looking at the big picture for everyone, right? That's different from when you're a mother and you're looking at the details of this and the details of,
Mm.
you're like looking at the big picture, and you've got all your wisdom that you've gathered from life that you can offer and contribute. It's a completely different state of mind that we need to be in, or instinctively we're in a different state. But people are like, oh no, like we see that on the scans that a postmenopausal brain looks different. Well, of course it looks different. It is different, right? It needs to be different. It would be weird if it was the same. But they're going through the woman's body and they're saying, oh no, a gut microbiome of a postmenopausal woman isn't like a premenopausal woman. Well, of course it's not. Of course it's not. We don't need to menstruate. We don't need such levels of hormones that we needed for reproduction. We need different things in our body as we age. But no, it's like seen as, oh no, this was the normal. In this ancient idea of, only the reproductive woman, she is normal, but not really normal because the man was always considered normal. But then like post menopause, like everything changes and, that's a disaster. No, no, it's divinely designed. We can relax. We really can relax and feel held and feel taken care of, and not buy into all these fearful stories that are just made up to sell, literally made up to sell drugs. And I know that they're made up because they've been trying to push them on women since the 1960s, and there was no research behind them then, and there's no research behind them now. So yeah.
Mm. It's quite shocking and sad, really, isn't it? When you say it like that, it is that we have, like you say, innocently we listen to our fearful thinking, but we are bombarded with adverts, being told, oh, menopause. I mean, very, very often, if I'm on any kind of social media, if I'm on anything like that, every so often, and it doesn't take long for something to come up, oh, if you're suffering with hot flushes, if you're doing this, you can, I'm very much pointing towards this idea, like you said, that your body is malfunctioning, and the fact it's all, the message is almost like, well, now you've finished being useful and having babies and things, really you should be dead, but if we find some good medication for you, because science is so clever, then we can keep you alive for a little bit, even though you're probably not really that useful. But it almost feels like that's the fear, I guess, that is created within us, and then we can listen to that playing out, and it is like some kind of, and that really feeds into the I'm not good enough, I don't. And I have one of the things that you've said quite a few times throughout this call, which I'm just literally like, oh my gosh, I just love that, this, the wise elder. Whereas I think a lot of the time it almost kind of feels like on the scrap heap rather than a wise elder. Yeah, how much, if you're looking at the fact that we live in the feeling of our thinking, and feeling joyful, feeling aligned, this preening and all of this, like having, seeing ourselves as a wise elder is surely far, far better for our health, mental, physical, all around, rather than someone who's on the scrap heap that, if we are deemed to get the right medication, we might,
Right, right. And it's so absent from Western culture. Like if you imagine that in tribe cultures, elders actually wear different jewelry or some kind of headdress or something like that often. They have this status that people are reminded of, that's the elder of the tribe, right? But in the West, what do we have? We, can, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, I could have a pair of jeans like the same kind of, as my daughters who are in their late teens, right? And so I see often like my gray hair is like perhaps the replacement for the headdress that perhaps I would wear in a different tribe.
I've got a very nice headdress with some like
But literally, like there's nothing that's appreciated within the aging process, and the only stories we get is that it's downhill from now on, and you're going to be on medications and you're going to be malfunctioning. But no, the protection against that nonsense is God, right? Is knowing God, knowing that God is in your body. You were not designed to malfunction. You were not designed to shrivel up and just be useless. Not at all. And actually, we can look at the Bible, actually, stories of the Bible. And I talk about this in my book, that in the story of Sarah, when she is told that she's going to have a child, and it says, and she is beyond the ways of women, right? And she laughs when she overhears that she's going to have a child. Now, why does she laugh? Because she knows about that she is in a postmenopausal time, and she knows that postmenopausal women wouldn't normally have babies, right? And the Bible doesn't need to explain that stage of life. It's assumed the reader knows that stage of life exists. So this whole idea that no, menopause is like some kind of modern mistake, and really, like, there was no, because there's no evolutionary rationale to have women who don't reproduce, when we've already talked about why it's an evolutionary advantage. But the traditional idea is, well, how can we possibly explain that? Right? That must be some kind of modern mistake. And there, I mean, I've literally got a book from the 1960s, and it talks about, once women, just used to die off young. It doesn't talk about men dying off young. It just says once women used to die off young. But it's just nonsense. It's nonsense. We find menopause in the Bible. We find it in ancient Greek literature. We find it in 12th century literature. I can bring up all the examples. And women are never talked about as like, oh, yeah, some freak in the village actually lived beyond menopause. No, it was just known that this is part of our life cycle. It's a natural part of our life cycle. It's a divine path for us to take, and we can celebrate it, and we can celebrate that move towards the wiser elder. And if only we had more of that in our culture, women would feel much better about moving through this time in life. And it's, like I said, God is the protection. You can say it, like, when all those fear stories come out, you're just like, well, that doesn't make sense if I'm designed by the divine.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with you more about God being the protection for all of the, menopause, or anything really anything that we are struggling with. For me, realizing that we are a divine design, and not only are we a divine design, if you read the Bible and the story of creation, we are God's, the pinnacle, the apple of God's eye, his top design, like we're the ultimate. And so to imagine that being the ultimate design, there's a huge design fault. I don't think so. Everything God creates, he said, and he sees it was good, and he sees it's good, and he sees it's good. And it's like, so he doesn't, oh, he sees this has got a massive design fault. I've never read that in the Bible. And like you say, to when you see how having a relationship with God, or an understanding of our spiritual nature, our design, our divine nature, seeing that and leaning into that. And as I said earlier, the Bible to me feels like it is a book that sort of says, if you do this, then you can expect that. And that's it, exactly when you said it. If you lean into God, the Bible says, be afraid for nothing. I can't remember, I think it's something like 365 times there is some version of don't be afraid, don't be scared, don't be anxious in the Bible. So pretty much for every day of the year, it's like, yeah, you don't need to be scared, you don't need to worry. Lean into God, and understand there is divine intervention here, divine guidance, and it's built into us. So like you say, we're God, the pinnacle of God's design. And as I said, what I see in the Bible, it's not, we're invited to not take anyone's word for that. Try, see, play with it. And I'm sure, the work that you do with women, the realignment and all of this sort of thing, it's we'll try this, see what happens. And it's almost, I remember Michael Neal doing some talks during COVID, and I think it was can't hurt, might help. Even if you put it under that headline, try it. It's not going to
Yeah.
hurt you. Experiment. See, can you see the divine? Can you create some kind of relationship? Can you learn to trust in that instead of doctors, medication, things with outside of us? Can we learn to trust in this? Play with it. See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what's also so useful to recognize is that the divine presence in each of us is so forgiving. Like we can spend 20 years of our life off a path of good health in any way that we choose. If it's through diet, if it's through sitting on the sofa and eating crisps, if it's through, being overstressed and thinking that's our normal, whatever it is in our innocence. And then we can have a shift in consciousness and we can see that there's a different way. God then doesn't come and say, "Oh no, but sorry, you've spent 20 years, mucking it up
Not listening to
and
me.
not listening." No, in any moment, a
Yeah.
healing path opens up to us. At any moment. Like it's just incredible. And where we may not forgive ourselves, God forgives. Like there's no blame. We were just off the path and then we come back onto the path of good health and things start sorting themselves out. Like it's just that the realization that yes, we do have a role to play. We are co-creators in our health, but we can trust in the divine in us. We can trust that we're designed to heal. We can trust that things can just sort themselves out and we don't even have to understand why. We just don't need to understand. Like the example I gave of the client that I work with, we didn't have to go in and check, oh, wait a minute, at this level, the hormone is like this, the hormone is like that, or this is happening and that's happening. And the ovary is no, the body just opened up to menstruation once more and then to pregnancy again. And that's just available for everyone. Like those shifts, those transformations, those spontaneous healing experiences. They're not they're not designed to be just among the few. We each have that ability within us.
Mm, I love that. And like we are all unique aspects of the divine. Tell me more about your experience, and I don't know whether you've got a story or whatever, but this, you've said something else you've said quite a lot is we are co-creators of our health. Expand on that for me. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So there are certain pillars of health that make it much easier for us to feel vibrant in ourselves. And so obviously, if I do, took the example, if I sit on if I spend all my life sitting on the couch eating crisps, then at some point the body is going to start talking to me. And the body is going to start giving me sort of like muscle aches, or, maybe my stomach's not going to feel so great because I'm not eating healthy food. And so these will be signs that something is out of balance. Now, if I'm feeling connected, we're all connected, but if I'm actually feeling the connection to the divine, I can see those symptoms as intelligent. And it's not like, oh, now my legs are aching. Now my stomach doesn't feel right. Oh, I need to go to a doctor. It's like, what can I do as a co-creator of my health? There's the divine in me sending me a message. Something is out of balance. So what can I do? And likewise, if I just spend my whole life um, uh, taking thinking seriously, always, my mind is very busy, always, 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 and feeling bad and feeling bad. The body doesn't want that. So the divine is going to try and wake you up with these uncomfortable feelings that we so often misinterpret. And we say, oh, that's depression, that's a malfunction, that's anxiety, that's a malfunction. No, there's intelligence in those feelings, in those states, because the body is trying to wake us up, that we need to take life lighter. So like there'll be all these signs, but can we be in the state that we can be aware and we can say, oh, something needs to shift? And even, on my journey, I had my spontaneous healing experience, over a decade ago. I still can get in my head and start, taking life very seriously, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I'll start feeling very uncomfortable. And even, I could have a night sweat or something like that. And like, I feel blessed because I'm like, oh, oh, right. And the answer's always the same. Lighten up, right? You don't need to take it so seriously. Realize there are infinite possibilities. Like we're so often we like get caught up in the, oh my goodness, this is going to be like this and this is going to be like, come back into the present. You don't know, there are infinite possibilities out there. And we lighten up, we have a different experience of whatever's going on in our life. And that's the way that we co-create our health, because we are, in our innocence, the creator of stress or the remover of stress. We, in our innocence, are the eaters of, food that's not the best for us. And we can also be the eaters of food that will nourish us. And it doesn't mean that we need to only eat, one kind of food, or we never have to have a stressful thought. Of course not. The body is intelligent enough to be able to cope with that. So, we have days when, too much chocolate cake or something, but, it's fine. The body forgives and we can move on. But if we're going to spend our whole life all day eating chocolate cake, it's probably not the best thing for us. And the body will tell us, but are we in the state to listen? So that's really, our role is co-creator, because we do have these pillars. So it's, diet, movement, our mental well-being, time outside, sunshine, community. And when we don't have those pillars in place, like I said, the body starts talking to us. But what I found is the central pillar is the emotional well-being. And that comes hand in hand with spiritual well-being, because then we can trust also in a greater intelligence. And when that is in place, then it just becomes obvious. Oh, perhaps I should go for a walk today. Or perhaps I'll choose this to eat rather than that. Or perhaps my body's feeling like I need more of this, at this stage in life, more butter, or or more iron or less iron, or whatever it is, right, that our body sort of like pulls us to. And we can tell the difference between if it's like, oh, I need this because I've had such a hard day, or if it's like this sort of like gradual thing of, I think I just need to eat more eggs, or I need to eat more, butter, or I need to, whatever it is, right, that we get this feeling to,
Mm.
I get that feeling to eat. And that's, we're being divinely guided. And there's no reason why we can't be intuitive eaters. Animals are intuitive eaters, and we can be intuitive eaters too. So, if we spend all our time inside, then we're going to get that call to be outside. Can we listen to that call? That's the way we co-create our health. And it's so gentle, and it doesn't have to be rigid, and it doesn't have to be like a boot camp. It's just, moving with the urge to like the gentle urge to, oh yeah, eat a bit more of that. Oh yeah, go for a walk. Oh yeah, let's spend out some time outside. Let's meet up with friends rather than just being all alone. All of these things, we know that they play into good health overall. So like, lucky, otherwise, it'd be a bit boring. If it was just in all creation, right? If we just said, I want this, and then it appears, like we'd get bored of that. So we're all the time playing with with everything, with these pillars of health, to create good health and well-being. And luckily, we're taken care of.
Mhm. Mm. I just love that. And yeah, to me, that is everything that I point to in, do you believe in God? It's like, do you believe that we are divinely taken care of? And in whatever area of your life, clearly your area of interest, where you've studied, where you've really looked, is women's health in this way, which is so amazing and so beautiful. But it is like seeing there is nowhere that divine guidance, that and I'm hearing in what you're saying, be in relationship to your body, be in relationship to these signs. And that's, to me, I talk to God. It's like I'm in relationship with this intelligence that created me, that is alive in me at this moment, so I can, tap into that. That's what
Yeah.
I'm really hearing in what you're saying in the co-creation. It's like there is something mind-blowing that we are a part of. And if we believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with us, we've misunderstood something.
Yeah, yeah, in our innocence, we
Yeah.
like to say, because it's, we're all on a journey in life, and we're all going to have different chapters, and we're going to have different levels of understanding and different levels of consciousness. And like I said before, like God is so forgiving. It doesn't matter where we've been on our journey, whether it's to do with our health or relationships or any other part of our life, we can always come back into a more loving, harmonious state and be taken care of. We're taken care of there when we're off balance, and we're all like the signs will appear to bring us back to harmony, and then we can come back to harmony and we're taken care of there as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a really beautiful and rich conversation. And I will take it that your answer is, do you believe in God? Yes, I think
Yes.
you do believe in
Yes.
what we have been
And
wanting to go on through.
no, I know. And I was like thinking about that sentence. And I think because I saw your interview with Ellen and she was talking about like knowing God. And I think like perhaps like the do you believe in God? It feels like when I said, you know, is that a religious conversation? Because it's like, do you believe? Like, have we convinced you to believe? Like, is no God is within you. Like, and it, just as God is within your garden or at the beach or at the, you know, wherever you want to see God, and you can know God, and feel comfortable in God's presence. Yeah.
So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you if they want to find out more about your
Yeah.
amazing
Thank
work
you.
and what you do and your book? I will put some links in the show notes, but tell us anyway.
Yeah, so the easiest way is on my website. It's thewiserwoman.com, thewiserwoman.com. And you can also find me on Facebook and on X or Instagram. I'm a little bit there too these days. So that's under my name. You can just look at my name, Tania Elfersy. But you can contact me through my website. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time and that beautiful conversation. I've really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.